Hey everyone, we're going to take a look at this track that you heard the little snippet of on the way in there. This track is inspired by the great recordings of George Benson, some of his early recordings, especially this one record that I really love called the George Benson Cookbook, which has Lonnie Smith and Ronnie Cuber playing Bari sax, so the guitar, Bari sax, and organ and drums. It's just a really cool sound, and it gave me a nice opportunity to play with the guitar. I had some updates here. Just been working a lot on improving the guitar and fixing some bugs. So, and this was a nice opportunity to make a track with the guitar and use the sophisticated Bari, which came out in the fall of last year. So just a note about the update, we're here on version 1.2 at the making of this video. If yours is this or higher, by the time you watch this, it'll probably be updated again. We're continuing to work on this. This is our new kind of smart delay 2.0 kind of instrument, which is related, to the wind instruments we did, like Birth of the Trumpet and Sophisticated Bari you'll hear in this track. But it's a bit of a reworking of it and kind of an evolution of it. So we're still working on it and improving it every day. So just make sure you have at least version 1.2. If you don't, go to Pulse. Then, if yours says version 1.1 or 1.0, go to Pulse and update there. One really cool subtle thing you can add to your guitar tracks that gives them a bit of swagger and just add some realism is using the pitch bend really sparingly but effectively. So if we look here, I've just pulled up the pitch bend here, and here's the guitar MIDI roll. So we can see here that I've added just a little something. Let's listen to these phrases. I'll just start a few back. Let's actually solo it so we can hear. So you can hear there. So, it doesn't go that far. So if you were to go all the way up, that would be a whole step. The pitch bend goes in whole step. So this is not even a half step. A half step, I guess, would be, so that's, half step would be kind of there. So not quite to a half step. And then making sure it's right back at zero by the time you get to the next note. Just a little, sometimes when guitarists let go of the note, they bend it just a touch. And you could even go subtler than this, and it would be really effective, adding it on some long notes. You can see I put another phrase here. Yeah, just, not like a full bend like you're trying to get to a half step. It's more about just giving it a little bit of interest. So here without all the fast rounds before it. So that's very subtle, not even close to half step yet. So feel free to use the pitch bend, and if something's feeling a little flat, adding just a touch of pitch variation will add some realism and give it a little bit of edge to it, But remember, it's always up. Guitar, the pitch can't pitch down. The only thing you could do, sometimes people will start a note low and then have it resolve to the actual pitch. But to me, that always sounds fake. So I would say treat it more like an actual guitar. The string can bend up only. That's the only way it can go. And there was a bug there in version 1.1 that the pitch bend wasn't translating in smart delay, but that has been solved. So I should say there's one little thing that users seem to be not quite maybe understanding is that this mode, mono versus chord mode, here I'm pressing the sustain pedal to switch them. It's pretty important that when you're playing single lines, well, let me put my fast rounds back in. when you're playing single lines that it's in mono mode, so no pedal pressed. And that when you're playing chords, it's you have the pedal pressed. Now, when it loads, when the instrument first loads, it'll just be in chord mode by default. So you can, you know, so you can just hear whatever you want to play. And that's, you know, by design, so you can just open the instrument and start playing and it makes the sound you want to make. But once you start making a track, you can see if I go to my sustain MIDI automation here, you can see whenever I have chords, I have the sustain pedal press. This should be actually, see, look at that, mistake. So yeah, when it's single lines, there's no pedal. When there's chords, there's a pedal. So just try, and there was some weird bugs where if you were in chord mode and you played single lines, it would do kind of weird machine gunny things. We've solved that, so it sounds better now. But you're not going to get the full power of the smart delay if you're playing single lines in chord mode. If you're leaving it like this and just playing single notes, you're going to get a much better performance when it's in mono mode. And that's because the script has to know what you're going to play. For example, it does slides. So let me find one. There's an example. So this is auto, when we're in Auto-Slur here. You look at this. So there's no key switch, there's no nothing. It's auto-slurring this because you played a little short note into a longer note, and the second note is quieter, right? So if you have a little short note here and it's a half step up or down, it'll play a slide. But you can see how if this is in chord mode, it might be expecting that this is just a sloppily played chord, that these two notes actually should sound together as opposed to being monophonic. So that's why it has to kind of know what's coming. Is it a single line and I'm gonna treat it that way, or is it maybe I'm gonna get some chords? So I just been seeing some users getting some like weird, like they're just leaving it on chord mode all the time and it's not really doing the smart delay thing. So anyway, so that's just a note there. Make sure you're in mono for single notes, chord mode for chords. And again, the sustain pedal is defaulted to that. I think you can change it. Yeah, you could change it if you wanted to something else. But in the process of fixing the little bug where it was playing wonky single notes in chord mode, it was playing like a machine gun thing, we actually improved the chord mode for repeated or just down up kind of strokes, which is something I wanted to get to. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle in that first week of release. If we look at this section here, let's just listen to this. Maybe I'll put the drums in and the guitar. Let's just listen. Right, so this is the smart delay chord mode in full force. Really nice voicings it's finding to play, and the auto strum is on, so you can hear it strum across the strings. Right, and we could turn the strum up, which will make it a little slower strum. It's a little more arpeggiated. Bling. I like it about, if you command click it, it's about there. Feels the most natural to me. Now, so that's always downstrokes. An important part of playing like rhythm guitar stuff is being able to go down, up, right? And so we always had it that if we have our attack key switches here, right, for down, up. You can always force an upstroke. So if I say I want a downstroke here, upstroke here. Where is it? Here it is. So, right, so F is default, F sharp is down, G is up. So you could force an upstroke and it would play an upstroke chord here, and you would hear the strings go from high to low. Let's turn the strum up just a little more. Oops. So we can hear the backwards. It's still kind of hard to hear. You can even see it, bling, bling. It started on the high note because we did upstroke, right? So high to low. So that was always available. But what if you wanted more of a kind of a quicker rhythm? You don't really want to have to add the ups and downs every time. So if I was to edit this, bing-a-da, ding-a-da-ding. And then this. Oops. I'm just cutting this note up. So now it's dee-da-da-dee-ga-da-dum instead of bom, bom, bom. So what you would want to do naturally is go down, up, down, boo-ba-da-ding-ga-da-da. So let's watch it. So now we've fixed that. So it just automatically, let's put the strum back down to something more, right? And you can see the up, down there if you want to watch it. This shows you whether it's a down or upstroke. Sometimes it's a little slow in the fast strum. But so really very real. Just kind of hearing that strum. So it does that by default. You could always override it if you wanted, say, like you say, that goes down, up, down, up. And you say, oh, okay, I want that to be down there. You could just force it. You could put that key switch in, and it would just reverse it from then on. So anyway, so that's a nice improvement there on the auto strum. Shorter notes back to back will automatically do up down strumming. Let's hear it with everything. That's pretty cool. So I think I'll leave it like that. So that's a nice improvement. The other thing we improved is just some general Auto-Slur improvements that are just a little more realistic and idiomatic for how you would play some stuff. If we listen, let's just listen from there. Let's hear that again and we'll keep going. There's a cool octave thing here with the muted. If you haven't seen that video, there's a cool video that talks about the octaves, but really nice octave thing. So we'll listen to this single line stuff and you'll hear this is where the solo starts. And there's a lot of nice Auto-Slur things happening with hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides. And you can see them here, and you can also see them down here where there's a script warning right now. Oh, I gotta fix that. But you'll see force slur, force slide. So we'll just watch. I should say that the distortion or the overdrive is on right now. Here's without it. That's a little more clean, you know, kind of normal jazz tone. But this is it's that early George Benson kind of vibe, and you can see I have the drive all the way down, but a little edge is really nice. And in the track, it just feels like right. There's a good phrase to give you an example. So no key switches. You can see it's just in Legato smart delay. You can see all these, and watch here. You'll see all the force. Sorry, note got stuck. Too many notes. It's looking at all kinds of things about how long the note is, what the interval is, are you on the same string, And it just has this whole kind of huge bunch of rules. And you can see there's a little slide there. There was another one of those half-step slides. Now, most of these auto-slur things are set to engage if the second note, like let's say the slurred note. So let's mute this for a second and just listen to this phrase. So that's being hammered on. This note right here, this C is being hammered on. And you can see the dynamic's the same. So if the dynamic is the same or lower, it might add a slur if the situation is right. But let's say I didn't want that to be slurred. I don't like the way it sounds. I could do one of two things. I could either just force a downstroke, which is, I'm still getting used to where they are. Here it is. I could force a down there, F sharp, and it wouldn't do it. I turned smart to left. Yeah, boo-dee-doo-doo. So it picked that. Here it is slurred without anything. The other thing I could easily do is just make the velocity just a little louder. If this is a little higher, it won't slur it. But it's still slurred to here, right? So if you hear a slur that you don't like, the fastest thing to do is just to raise the velocity up just a little bit over more than the previous note. You know, the nature of a slur is that it's die. The second note is always going to be a little softer than the first note. So if you want to counteract it, you can just drink and then you have no slur. But to me, that really makes that whole phrase so nice. Let's I muted that now. And as you can hear, it's cool. All this is super picked. So there's almost no slurs in this. Every note is picked. It has a really cool vibe. Also, notice these repeated notes. I always mention them in the smart delay things. They're really hard to do and sound really good. So you can hear, I think, you know, I won't oversell it too much here, but the fast stuff sounds pretty, to my ears, pretty remarkable. And all that slurring, you know, the rules we're writing, it's not just random, you know, it's all about the placement. Because of the smart delay affords us to know where the note is, to know what the next note is, right? Without smart delay, you can't possibly know what the next note is, right? Because the note is playing at the moment, you know, but the smart delay is actually waiting a second. We have the plug-in here that's compensating for it, but it's actually playing it before we hear it, right? So the fact that it can know what's coming next will tell it, oh, I should slide this one instead of that one. You know, when we heard that little slide and this one, yeah. Let me just mute this for a second. This phrase. D, D. So this note, you know, this sample is a different sample than if this was picked, right? This is pulling a sample that leads to a slide, right? Because of this note is different. Because this is a half step up, we say, oh, this note needs to slide into this. So for this sample, the C sharp sample, we go get a different recording. So sometimes it's hard to convey kind of the level of depth that's going in to it. But because of, the smart delay, a phrase like this, which, which notes are picked and which notes are slurred and which notes are slid and which notes are hammered on and pulled off. It's actually it's really quite complex. And then the bends. Yeah, I mean, it's just, these repeated notes in here, because this note is the same as this note, this recording is different, Those are the kind of things. And so how do we get that? We're recording a player playing phrases like these, right? So that you get all these different versions of samples. One example of some of the advancements we have here in the Smart Delay 2.0 that we've had to solve when we moved into string instruments, right, is that you have multiple strings. So it's up to this point, we'd only done monophonic instruments. So all the horn libraries are monophonic. And so the smart delay only has to deal with one set of voices. But because we have multiple strings, you can kind of imagine a guitar like 6 monophonic instruments, 6 strings that are all monophonic, and they have to kind of in concert work together. We came up with a new kind of legato for this guitar specifically, but I think we'll be using it, and I know we'll be using it in the future, is string cross legato. So that means if you imagine you play, so let's see, what's a good note? Okay, so we play this G here. If I go from the G to the D, it's not on the same string. We're not hearing it right now because we're not in smart delay. But if you were to play that interval, right, we have a different G that leads to moving from the G string to a different string. So it isn't the same recording as just playing the G and letting go. It isn't like it's just a G sustain and then you have a release sample and it plays a D on the D string. It's a G recording that when we actually recorded it, the player went from the A string to the D string. And so there's all kinds of subtle things in the guitar that happens when you move from one string to the other, how the string is muted, what the pick does. It's different. It's a subtly different sound than if someone just plays a rest or something, or especially if they play a note on the same string. Very, very different. So string cross legato is an example of something that smart delay is affording us. So we have these different recordings for when we're moving from one string to the next. And that's a part of why when you hear a phrase like this, it sounds so real, because you're getting just so many different recordings from that exact, almost nearly exactly that situation. You played a slide into a note and then you went to a different string. That recording is a different recording than playing a slide into a note and you played the next note on the same string. One thing you'll notice in the guitar performance is that I automated the position quite a bit. I learned this. I added it to C21, which you can see I have here. And you can see I kind of just went through and automated where I wanted stuff played. So you can hear, this is like a G minor thing. So I know that's that G minor pentatonic. It has a certain sound down there lower on the guitar. If I turn this off, will it work? And I can just move it and it won't play it? No. So just for comparison, if you put it in all the way up into the default mode, which kind of has this, I've shown it before, but it has this kind of path that is, you know, maybe 80% of the time how you're going to play stuff, but and it'll sound really natural and really even across the whole guitar. So you can leave it there and it'll probably be mostly fine. But if you're going after a certain sound, so let's just hear it up here and you can hear what it sounds like. So let's solo it. And that's nothing wrong with that sound at all. It's just that to my ears, like I just know that I want to hear this kind of a little more twangy. Just that, to me, that's more right. So, and then when I went to the solo, I didn't want it. I wanted it to kind of hover in one spot more. Oh, this got moved. This was supposed to be on 10. See, that sounded different. I heard more shifting than I was not used to. So yeah, experiment with that. You know, it's going to sound good in the default position most of the time. The only thing you sometimes will run into is you'll hear a lot of shifting because it's, you know, if you happen to play really angular or really big leaps, you'll hear the guitar shifting a fair amount, which is cool. And but if it's doing something you don't particularly like or doesn't sound right to you, then mess with the position. Just right click right click this and find a spot that you like. We haven't really looked at the Bari. Let's just kind of take a look at it and take a listen. So this is just to say it out loud. So, you know, on the guitar, we've got the regular plug-in smart delay and the smart delay plug-in on it, right, to compensate. So that's in time. The Bari is just, you know, the original smart delay 1.0, if you want to call it that, where it's a bar ahead, right? We had to drag. So this was, you know, recorded here. There it is in sync. You can see it, and now it's in sync with the guitar. But smart delay needs 4 beats. This smart delay. So you can see they work fine together. It's just, you just kind of have to remember that this one needs to be nudged back. But this has got a pretty great solo in it too. And you know, the sound of the Bari and the guitar together is just so cool. just a cool vibe. Guitar and guitar and Bari and octaves, really cool. And it should, just for MIDI mock-up, this is something we all know, but I played these in separately, even though they're just playing the same thing. If you want it to sound more natural, don't just copy it over, I didn't want to do that. Don't just copy it over, replay it. And so, that adds just a little difference in rhythm. And, you can vary the articulations a little bit. Sometimes I'll add a staccatissimo or I'll add a bend in the Bari and leave it normal in the guitar. So just varying that. But there's a pretty great, after the guitar solo, is pretty great Bari solo. And you can hear we go to, I'll play just a few seconds of that. The organ chords drop out and the guitar goes to chords. And you can see we have some of these down up. You'll hear some of these down up things. Etc. So yeah, so really utilizing smart delay on the Bari and on the guitar to full extent. If we look at the Bari sax, we've got some bends in here, a few maybe forte piano here in some spots. We have a couple of glisses, right? So the run in is this D key switch on the first note of the. Just that really, just a little rip into it is really nice. So not a ton in the way of key switches, but a few short notes, a few scoops and bends. Those really add the realism. The only other thing I wanted to show is just a little kind of a cool mixing tip. If you're listening to this in headphones, this is a thing from some older Blue Note records. That works really well for this kind of situation where you have two soloists and you want them panned. You want them, like right now I have the guitar and the Bari panned. So the Bari's on the right, the guitar's on the left. We go back to the top and you can hear it. It feels good to have them separated. But you run into what happens. What's kind of funny is when you get to the solo, it feels off balance because the other horn is stopped. And there's a cool solution to this is to create two reverbs. So here I have two plates. I just use the little plate from Sound Toys, which I like. And then you pan the reverbs. So I have a left plate and a right plate, and they're pretty much identical. But you can see I have this one panned. This is the right, and this one panned left. Now the instrument that's on the left gets sent to the right reverb. So if we just listen to the guitar, if you put headphones on, you'll hear the reverb is mostly in the right. And vice versa, the Bari, the reverb's on the left. And this is, I'm talking about, kind of an actual reverb, not like a room sound, but like a tail on a reverb. And what's cool is when the solo's happening, you don't have that guitar. Like if we listen to the guitar, you don't have the Bari anymore, but it sounds fun. If I kind of crank the reverb so you can hear it. And so you get the feeling of the, it just balances it out. So you still get that tail, that reverb that gives it some warmth and some space, but it keeps it balanced. when only one of them is playing. And then like for the organ, I have it sent to both. So for things that are maybe centered, I have the drums and organ centered. I'm not sending the drums to, this is a little room kind of sound. But as far as the reverb, I'm sending the organ to a little bit of both, so it's kind of going to both sides. So things that are in the center, you can send to both. Things that are panned right, you send to the left reverb, and things that are panned left, you send to the right reverb. Just a kind of a cool little mixing tip for this style, this kind of like older jazz style. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll play the whole track on the way out.